Mr. Hecker will join us as soon as he can. Dr. Romero, might I ask you to lead us in the pledge?
Yes. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to
the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible,
with liberty
and justice for all.
Thank you. First order of business on the agenda is the approval of the March 2nd minute summary. Are there additions or corrections to the minute summary that was provided to you ahead of time? Hearing none, may I have a motion to approve the summary as submitted?
So moved.
And seconded. Thank you. All those in favor say aye.
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 Votes aye. Opposed say no. Motion carried. Item 4 is map options. This is really a catch-all subject on the agenda, but it really is for a time for us to kind of get into the meat of the discussion. We've had several maps submitted. I hope you've all had an opportunity to look at all of the maps that are on the website. The ones under consideration are up above. And then, of course, any maps that you have that are still being worked on are down below in your portion of the website. So I don't know how you would like to start doing this, whether we either take a look at some maps that are there and eliminate some from consideration and zero in on a couple of others, or how would you like to go about it? Up to you. Yeah,
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Anthony.
if I can make a suggestion, based on the comments that I've read, both from the town of Marana and the city of Sahuarita, or the town of Sahuarita, and from some of the other public comments that we received, I think option 2B is probably something we should start maybe tweaking as sort of like the base map to begin, because it takes into consideration some of those comments. And then that's what I basically did. I have some recommendations, but I used map 2B as my basis for those recommendations. So I don't know if, just to start off, that's what I was looking at is option 2B as the beginning, and then I would like to offer some changes to that map by basically moving a few precincts, and I'll make those suggestions later. But but for me, I think based on the comments, map 2B seems the most viable map so far.
Okay. Any other comments? That's certainly one suggestion to go that way. Dr. Lee.
Yes, I submitted a 2D, and unfortunately, it was too late to get you the information. I went at it a little differently, although I do respect, obviously, the town of Sahuarita and Marana's opinion. I also value the integrity of the current supervisor districts, because you develop relationships with those individuals and those neighborhoods. And I was a candidate in District 3, and I know that even though Marana was split, District 3 had the majority of Marana, and I went to those town meetings and I developed relationships with them. So I would like us to consider a 2D. I think it does, in re-looking at what I submitted before in 2D, I think it keeps the integrity, but yet it does take into option 2, and it also, which I thought was very interesting, I learned as I was going through District 1 that the majority of those voters is unincorporated. And so what I did was give a little bit more balance to that, and also it increased the minority population in District 1. So I'd like that considered as well.
All right. Any other comments? Well, then, why don't we do both? Let's start with 2B, if that's all right, and we'll take a look at 2D, and we'll try to get some characteristics of each. I know Mr. Antonori has some changes that he wants to propose to 2B. We'll take a look at those and see where we are. And I think, are there any other maps that you'd like to have reviewed in our consideration? Because if we're only going to look at two, then I think we can zero in on those and spend the majority of our time taking a look at the impact of those two.
Mr. Lynn?
Yes.
I'm Chairman Lynn. Two things. First thing, in regards to 2D, I have no issues in terms of looking at any map, but in terms of data, I'm looking at the data spreadsheet that we were given so that we can conduct sort of an analysis of what exists within that recommendation in terms of maps. I don't have the data for 2D.
I don't think any of us do. It came late.
Yeah. So in that regard, I feel a little bit uncomfortable discussing 2D right now without really having the time to study what the recommendation really is. If the committee feels like moving forward, so be it, but I'm just expressing my concern. The next thing is I would like for potentially if staff could explain how it arrived to option 2.
The base map that they provided us as option 2?
Well, yes, as I'm looking at it, as I looked at it really deeply over the last couple of weeks, it's pretty solid. The other maps are the other data pieces or maps that we have in front of us are good, but I just want to get an understanding of where staff was and how they arrived at option 2.
Okay, so let's do this, Mr. Hecker. I know you joined us a little bit late. We're in the discussion of those maps that we want to consider, and so far, 2B has been offered as a starting point. 2D, which is a brand new map or a much more recent map submitted by Dr. Lee, and then Dr. Romero is suggesting that we start, and I think it's a good place to start because those are derivatives of map 2, option 2. My choice would be to start with the staff's explanation of option 2 so that we understand where they started from, and then we could go into 2B or 2D. And I understand that we don't have the statistical information for D yet, but I think the staff they may have run it. I don't know whether they've had a chance. Dr. Lee?
Chairman Lynn, I did run it because obviously you can run it right on the, so I know that we have the capability today, correct me if I'm wrong, to pull it up on the big screen. So I would,
Diana, stats available on the so that we can all see them?
Yes, Mr. Chair, we can bring it up on
okay.
Districtor.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Eric is online too.
Fair enough. So we'll get there. And then, Mr. Hecker, I wanted to get your input as to, did you have any map you wanted to add to this discussion?
No, I did not. Thank you.
Okay. So let's do this in kind of an orderly fashion. Let's start with the staff giving us a bit of an update on how they arrived at option 2 to start with, and then we'll go through the different iterations of 2 and see where we are.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I'm going to ask Eric if he can bring up the PDF version of 2 for us to look at. We'll start with that. When you actually get into manipulating the maps, we'll go over to Districtor, but we'll start with the PDFs first. All right, can you zoom in a little bit, Eric? Okay, so the original or the origination for option 1 and 2, I know 1's not on the screen, but I'm just going to let you know where these 2 maps originated first. So when we first wrote to the Board of Supervisors back in December about the redistricting process, we provided them with 2 maps as just samples in order to educate the board members that hadn't been through redistricting in the past to just demonstrate how something like this could happen. And so with option 1, we showed the goal of option 1 was just to only move 1 precinct to get us under 10% and show if the goal of the committee and the board was minimal change, that would do that. And then we also wanted to provide the board with an alternative map that provided a closer population balance, which option 2 gets you to a 4.1% maximum deviation. And we also tried to take into consideration what may be some other ideas that the community may have. And so we looked at Saurita, and it was in 3 different board districts. And so for option 2, 2 precincts in Sahuarita are moved from District 4 to District 2, so that the town of Sahuarita is mostly in just 2 districts. So those were 2 of the driving factors. Also, if you scroll up a little bit, Eric, to the north, looking at geographic boundaries, so the precincts along I-10 that are outlined in blue there that were part of District 1 originally, but were on the west side of the interstate, we moved those back to District 3. They were originally in District 3 prior to 2010, and using the interstate as a boundary. And then at the far end of District 1, Precinct 220, moved that alignment on the left there is Sabino Creek, and so we moved that to District 4. And in the middle, Precinct 51, which is along Park Avenue, right there, again, that provided a nice alignment down Park Avenue before it jutted out, so we moved that from District 2 to District 5. And then finally, District 5 still needed to gain quite a bit of population, so we proposed moving Precinct 41 into District 5. Now, before the precinct adjustments, Precinct 41 ended at Ajo Highway, so it looked a little cleaner, but after the precinct adjustments caused by the Independent Redistricting Committee, it ended up being the whole block that was moved in. And that was a movement of 10 precincts in total. And when you look at the demographics and the data set that we provide you, it didn't make much of a change to the current district demographics and party registration and so on. It did decrease the percent minority in District 2 based on voting age population and citizens voting age population by about 3%, but at this point we don't think that that's anything to be concerned about. And I think that's the main points of option 2.
One other thing, Nicole, obviously precinct 99 right here between Swan and Craycroft was also moved to District 3.
Good point.
Okay. Any other questions for staff about the compilation of option 2 in their mind? Dr. Romero, anything else you would like to know about that creation of that option?
No, I appreciate the thought process and how they went about the creation of this option. So thank you, staff.
Mr. Chair,
Okay,
if I might.
Go ahead, Mr. Hacker.
In option 2, Nicole, did you say that portions of District 3 or Marana was still in 2 different districts and Sahuarita was in 2 different districts in option 2?
Yes. So if we look at the Sahuarita area, although we tried to take it down from being in 3 districts to 2 districts, on the western side, you can see the area of the town of Sahuarita within the blue dashed line that is still in yellow, which is District 3. Those are 2 large precincts, Precinct 83 and 168, and it would really, change the sort of geographic boundary of District 2 if we pulled those in, but that's certainly something we can look at. So we didn't do that in our map.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, there are actually two districts that are fairly highly populated, 127 to the north, and then the district that Nicole just referred to the south, that are when you start moving those, it's a lot of people. They're large districts, and it does affect the population. So that population deviation, again, is 4.1 in option 2, down from the current deviation, which, because of population increase over the last decade, is up to 14, almost 15%. And so it's a significant decrease in population variation.
Mr. Chair,
let me ask a technical question. Go ahead, Nicole.
I just wanted to add one more point, only because we want to bring it up with each map when it occurs. So our map, or option 2, does not move any incumbents out of their districts into other districts.
Okay. And we should probably have that information on every option we look at, just to get the same information on everything. Eric, let me ask a technical question. When we get to Mr. Antonori's modifications to 2B, are you able to pull up the website and do those real time for us as he makes changes?
Yes, Chairman Lynn, I can do that both in Districtor, and then that will get us 80% of the way there for, population deviation and voting age population by race and ethnicity.
Yeah.
But if we want, like, citizen voting age population or voter registration numbers, I have another piece of software that I can also bring up that we can do on the fly.
Just so that we can do that in real time so that we understand the impact of any changes that he may propose or anybody may propose at this point going forward. That's great. All right. Are we finished with option 2 for the time being? Any other questions about option 2? Okay, then let's pull up option 2B. That's the next iteration of option 2. And option 2B attempts to do a couple of things, and I guess I'll talk a little bit about this one because I was the one that kind of offered the changes. I think there were 8 precincts that I moved in this particular iteration, if I recall correctly, and I had really 3 things in mind doing this. The first was to try to move as much of Marana and Sahuarita into one district as possible. And that was even before I got the comments from Marana and Sahuarita. If you'll notice on the north, 127 moves from District 1 to District 3. Unfortunately, the corporate boundaries of Marana also include Precinct 184. And 184 has almost 8,000 people in it. If that were to move also into District 3, it would create an imbalance that would reverberate through the map in a way that might be difficult to rectify. So it's not all of Marana, but it's most of Marana in the same district on the north. On the south, the same thing is true, and in part because Sahuarita has a really odd corporate boundary, as you can see. They do have some growth areas that they're concerned with to the south, and those I've incorporated in the District 2 boundaries. Again, just as Nicole mentioned, if you go to the west and try to incorporate Precinct 83, you're way over in population and have to make other adjustments that don't seem to make much sense. If you look at the statistical analysis on 2B, the population deviation is down to 0.7. So it's under 1% deviation among the district. It really evens them out, and by the same token, pays respect to the comments we got on both putting Marana together and keeping as much of Sahuarita together as we could. And so that was the impetus on those. With respect to the minority voting strength in the districts where that becomes most important, Districts 2 and District 5, those changed hardly at all. And it seemed to me that those numbers would remain relatively strong in terms of minority voting strength, voting age population. So I didn't see that as a huge issue with respect to preserving the minority population's ability to elect of their representatives of their choosing. So that was the genesis of 2B. Any questions on any of that?
Chairman Lynn?
Yes, Dr. Romero.
If I'm not incorrect, I think in 2B, I think, oh God, there's an incumbent in 127. Is it Ripley, Lewis Ripley?
Catherine.
There's an incumbent on the Pima College Board.
Yeah, and I think does that move them
disrupted?
Say again?
She is disrupted in terms of a residency.
Okay, right.
I'm aware of that. I don't know what her intention is in terms of running for re-election. I know she can continue on the board for the remainder of her term. That's not an issue. And again, I wasn't trying necessarily to keep college board incumbents where they were. That wasn't a criterion, but that is one of the things that is a consequence of 2B. Absolutely.
Okay. And then I'll hold my questions for a little bit. I'll let somebody else ask a question.
Okay. Other questions about 2B?
Yeah, I have a question,
Dr. Wade.
Chairman. Yeah, one of the things I notice about 2B is it actually puts more minorities in District 5 and District 2, and in actuality, those are majority minorities already. To me, it seems like we should be trying to balance it a little bit more in the districts such as 1 and 4 that have quite a bit on the quite fewer minorities in those districts. So that's just a comment that I'd like to point out.
Actually, it reduces the minority population in District 3. In 2 and 5, they stay almost identical.
That's what I meant, sorry. But it does still, according to this, our current minority population, if you look at current voting age, in District 5 is 56.8. And if you look at 2B, it moves it up to 58.2. So that's my calculation. It's a 2-point difference in 5. Do you see that?
I do.
So it does move it up 2. And then if you look at District 2, currently we're at 59.2. It moves it up to, it actually moves it to 56.3, so down slightly. But District 3 goes to 38.8 from 42.1. So that's a 3-point plus change for District 3.
Correct.
Just pointing that out.
Yep. That's a consequence. And again, I thought those changes were important to point out. I'm not sure about the significance of any one of them in terms of voting outcome. But I will be very honest with you. One of my goals was to try to get to equal population, because that, to me, is foremost in the Constitution: one person, one vote. And so anything we can do, even though I know you can talk about a 5-point leeway that may be acceptable, I think anything we can do to even out the population is something we ought to at least attempt to do. And that was my thinking. Obviously, the committee can do whatever the majority of the committee wishes to do with that issue.
The other thing, if I can add, Mr. Chairman, is that looking at the census data, you can clearly see that there are 2 major growth trends in Pima County. And unfortunately, District 5 and District 2 are not seeing those same growth trends. So I would recommend beefing those districts up population-wise, because over the next couple of years, both districts, all 3, District 3, 4, and 1 are going to see significant growth as well. So maybe we should take into account that you might want to grow into the population, one man, one vote on those districts, and maybe do what we can to plus up the populations of those districts that just don't have room for growth, right? It's built up pretty much as the way it is. So you're likely to see more growth in the rural districts, which are 3, 1, and 4. So maybe bring them down a little bit in the hopes of bumping the populations up in 2 and 5, so they can sustain at least some degree of population over the next 10 years.
Were some of the changes that you might recommend to that end?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
So if you look at District 4, a lot of the population are in those precincts that are near District 2 on the northeast corner of that district. That's some of the suggestions I was going to make, and then also to try to push some of those precincts into District 5. So you want me to go into kind of what I was looking at?
Let me see if there are any more questions on 2B before we get to your changes, and then we'll discuss those. Any other comments on 2B as it sits? Dr. Romero?
I'll let Dr. Lee go first, and then I'll.
All right, Dr. Lee.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair Lynn. I just have a question. You know, we were all appointed by our respective supervisors, and I just have a question regarding the issues with changing the boundaries as such in the Marana area, because, as I mentioned before, when I was District 3 Pima College Board, I developed relationships with those individuals in those areas, and by changing quite a bit, I mean, what I liked about 2D, which we'll see, is that it really kept the integrity, the majority of the integrity of the current lines. And I do have some issues with personally. Now, some of these board members may have different feelings about changing lines. I don't know. But I know for my own self as an elected official, you develop relationships. And Frank, you were an elected official. You may have a differing opinion or the same.
Well, victim of disruptive change in district lines, so I know what you're talking about. But that said, you know, with respect to what I think Mr. Lynn is trying to do, I'm a big advocate of trying to keep communities of interest, and in this case, municipalities, intact as much as possible, and school districts intact as much as possible without drawing lines between them. And I don't want to speak for the elections folks, but I know it makes it a lot easier when you get to the point of printing ballots as well. It's easier. And then for people, I can tell you, for example, when I would be gathering signatures to qualify for the ballot, it's a lot easier to say, do you live in the city of Marana? Oh, then you can sign my petition because the entire city of Marana is in my district. Do you live in Sahuarita? Oh, yeah. If you live in Sahuarita, then you can sign my petition because if you get to the point where you're chopping them up and then you say, well, what part of Sahuarita? Do you live on the northeast side? Do you live north of this road, south of that road? It becomes confusing to voters, I think, where they live district-wise. And I think it just makes it easier if you say, if the town of Sahuarita or if the town of Marana are in the same district, because their populations could conform to the population mean that we're trying to get to here, then it just makes it easier. So I get what you're saying, but I don't know. At the same time, I'd like to see the community of interest and the integrity kept together if possible.
Dr. Romero.
Yeah, and I appreciate the balance, Chairman Lynn. I really do. That was quite an effort, and I couldn't get it that low, so I appreciate how you did it. My only concern is that in terms of community of interest, I know that in regards to D5, there's a significant amount of interest in preserving their relationship with the Tucson Mountain Park and Saguaro National Park as well. So just want to make sure that is put on the table, and District 5's concern in terms of their identity. Those two elements, those two pieces, are a significant part of their identity in terms of what they're promoting, what their advocacy is, and so it would be hard pressed for to lose those areas.
Is that 151, Dr. Romero? Is that precinct? Are you talking about 151?
151.
Yes.
Yeah.
Eric, can you pull up 151 and give me a population read on that one?
There are 1,474 total people in precinct 151.
Okay. Well, that's not a huge addition if we decided to put that back in. I mean, it'll change the composition on the percentage, but it's still pretty low.
Yeah, and the one thing it does, Chairman Lynn, it has a significant amount of white population, so it does balance out the district as well.
So if I can ask, what's the population density of precinct 99?
1 second. 99, there are 3,081 people. So I don't know about the population density, but the total population.
Well, that's what I meant. I'm sorry, the population of that. So, I mean, if you were to put 151 back into District 5 and then take 99 and put 99 into District 5 as well, what does that do to the population for District 5?
Well, so the current population of District 5 is about 192,000, almost 193,000.
But I mean, I'm going off of Mr. Lynn's map, off of 2B.
Off of 2B, Eric.
Yeah.
So what is the question?
Well, we'd add about 4,000, Frank, 4,500, give or take.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, Mr.
So what does that
Antonori.
get the? How close do we get to 208? That's what I'm looking at. 208,000. That's the magic number,
Yeah,
right?
I think it would be more like 212, give or take.
We could, when we switch over to district, or we can make that change, and then you can see.
Okay.
We'll take a look at it and see what it does. Any other questions about 2B before we move on? I take all those comments. I'm keeping track of all of them. If not, let's move. Let's pull up 2B in the app, and then ask Mr. Antonori to. Have you got those precinct by precinct, Frank, so that we can see them real time?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes, I do.
Let's do that.
Although I didn't take into account what Dr. Merrill just said, so I get where he's coming from with 151, and that's why I was trying to, in my head, try to do an offset there from what I originally had planned. If you want to give him 151 back.
Well, let's hold 151 for the moment. I think.
Okay.
I think given the density of that particular precinct, I think we could make that change regardless, and not have a huge effect on the population deviation.
Yeah.
Because it's a pretty thin number, and that's fine. So go ahead and make your changes, and let's see what happens.
He's got it.
So I took to account the Saurita comments from the folks, and there were several other people, and then there are comments that I received from several folks that were texted to me as a personal thing because they know I'm involved with this process, and they live in the Green Valley area. So they had asked if it was possible to go in a little bit of a different direction, I think, than you were going at, Mr. Lynn, and that was to bring all of Saurita into District 4, and then to offset that population increase to District 4 by giving up more of the Metro Tucson precincts up on the northeast side by putting them into District 2 to offset that. So what I was going to recommend, I don't know if you could set this up, but moving what would basically be precincts 227, 231, 140, 276, and 83 into District 4.
Would you read those off again, Mr. Antonori?
Sure. 227, 231, 140, 276, and 83. Now, 83, I know from what Mr. Lynn just said, is the big one. That's a high population, so I know that's going to throw the
It
maps
just goes all the
off.
way out to Twin Buttes. That's the problem.
Yeah, I know. We may have to pull that out of there. I just wanted. This was just the initial look that I was looking at, and then 84. I'm sorry, 84 as well. Keep that. There you go. That's
And
it.
we'll have to do 147 as well.
Yes, correct. That was originally in there. That's why I didn't list it in.
All right, Eric, then go up to the east side of the center city is where the other adjustments will be made. Okay, Frank, go ahead.
And then 116, and these are into District 2. I'm sorry, moving these into District 2. 116, 183, 182.
All right, hang on. Go a little bit slower, Frank, so Eric can find them, and we'll do them one at a time.
Okay, 116, 183.
Right. 182. I can't see what he's doing on my, okay, there, I zoomed in, I could see now. 182, 262, 265,
Okay.
156, 264, 124, 133, and 132.
Okay.
And then I had moving precincts 99 and 69 into District 5.
'69 and
99, that little square.
Yeah. And then the last one was back down south again, which was trying to offset that 83, was moving 258 into District 3.
Yes. The long one in Green Valley.
Okay.
That's 258, okay.
Yeah. And then what does that do?
So run a population for openers.
Okay, so we've got about a almost 10% deviation, just under.
Oh.
But
So who was the beneficiary of that number? So I see we're at District 4 is at 209, right? Or wait, I can't. Where are the colors here? I'm sorry.
District 1 is at 209, but 219 is overpopulated by 11,000.
right, so that's District 5.
District 5 is overpopulated?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Well,
okay.
those precincts on the east end are pretty dense.
Yeah. If you want to take one of those out and move that 99 back in to District 3, see what that does.
That'll help a little.
Yeah.
Or 60 or 69 out of 5 and back into 4.
So that takes us to about 7% deviation. That's pretty good.
Well,
Okay.
Did you move 69, Eric?
Oh, I'm sorry.
69 out of Mr. Anthony's recommendation and leaving it in District 4. That's a pretty dense area.
you really want to beef up District 3. That's the shortfall. That's 202 at this point.
But
Yeah.
if it gets us closer, that's about 5.8% deviation.
So where can we build up 3? Where can we take and give? What can we give to 3?
Well, you got to take out a 4. It looks like.
Yeah, I would go next to 99 and see what that does.
Let's see. So
Yeah,
this one right here.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's Mr. Christie's. That's Mr. Christie's precinct.
Yeah, that's where he lives.
Yeah.
Well, never mind then. What about the one just above District 2?
This one,
That one. Yeah.
and put that in District.
Yeah, that's 69. Yeah.
But it's not contiguous to District 3, and that's where we're short.
Right.
Correct.
The district that's contiguous to District 3 is
107 might get you there.
No, that's Steve Christie's district.
107. I thought he was in 99.
No, he's in 107.
107.
Yeah.
And what about 99? What about what is? Oh, that's already there. Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, I see the problem now.
Mr. Chair,
How about moving 140 back into 2? See what that does.
Let's see, 140. I see. That's down Salarita.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So
It's going to catch part of the city limits, but
so So move that.
Oh, then I'm not contiguous.
You're better off doing the one on the west side of the freeway.
Mr. Chair, I
If at
think
all.
we may have started with the wrong map, and that may be affecting things, because if you zoom out, if this is supposed to be 2B or originally 2B, Marana is still showing up in District 1.
Oh, right.
So if the intention
Yeah,
was for us to modify
map.
2B, I think we're on the wrong one. And that could be why Mr. Antonori's
okay.
numbers are so off.
All right, bear with us. We'll start again.
Okay.
Because I want to get these. I want to get these.
Good catch. Good catch.
I apologize. I was using option 2, it looks like, so I apologize for that.
Mr. Chair, we're doing option 2B?
We're starting with option 2B and hopefully then making Mr. Antonori's changes
Got
to
it.
see what that looks like.
Okay, all right. So I had the right map. I had my right map.
Now,
So
my guess, Mr. Antonori, is that we're going to run into the same problem because I didn't make a lot of changes to. Well, most of the changes were 1 and 2, but let's see what happens.
Yeah, I tried not to tinker at all with that northeast or northwest area there, so it should be fine. And again, what I was trying to find is a remedy to the Saurita problem, which is going to be a challenge again because you mentioned the municipal boundaries of the city or what they have incorporated are a little bit different than what the precincts are.
Yeah.
So again,
Yeah.
Yep.
Sorry. You know what I would suggest, because taking time to do this would take quite a bit of time. What if Mr. Antonori submitted this to, and we could then take a look at all of his ideas and get the actual population changes as an option?
Well, I certainly don't mind doing that. I was trying, quite frankly, to cut down the amount of time we're going to spend overall, and we have until 6 o'clock to do some work here, and then we have an April 6th meeting, and I was hoping that we wouldn't have to add too many other meetings to it. But I'm willing to add as many as are necessary. What's your pleasure? We can do it either way. Frank, you could submit those, and we can.
yeah, the agenda. Looking at the agenda, we really don't have much after this. This is the meat.
No, this is it.
This is the meat. So I mean, we got an hour and 15 minutes, I guess. I don't think this should take more than 10, 15 minutes at the most to just go do this real quick.
Now, what we won't have is the full analysis. We may have some of the numbers, but we won't have all of them. And we'll have to run that, and we'll once this is completed, if yours, Dr. Lee, is yours is 2D that you submitted?
Yes.
Okay.
And
So we'll call this 2E.
I had already submitted it.
We'll call this 2E when it's done. So let's run through these real quick. I don't think it'll take very long either. You want to start down south, Frank, again?
Yeah, let's take it. So originally it was precincts 227, 231. Now these are different from. I'm keeping the ones that already have been moved by Mr. Lynn. So I'm not talking about 84 and 259 and 147. So I'm talking about. So those would revert back, right? So 84, 259, and 147 would revert back to District 4.
okay, and you also mentioned 83 in District 4, correct?
Right. So and then it would be 227, 231, 140, and then 276.
Right. Okay.
All right, and then I had 258 moving into District 3. 258 moving. That's down south. 258. Yeah, 258 moving into District 3 to try to bump up the population there.
That's south of Twin Buttes.
Yeah.
And 258 only has 300 people in it.
Yeah, I know.
Well, that's okay.
Try and do a little. And then okay, so then back up on the northeast corner, to move into District 2, we had 116, 183, 182, 262, 265, 156, 264, 124, 133, and 132 into District 2. And then I had 99 and 69 into District 5. But I don't know if you want to do that.
Well, let's do that and take a look at it. We can pull them out if we need to.
Mr. Chair, as we construct these new maps, are we going to have ethnic demographic data?
Yeah, we're going to have to, Dr. Romero. We'll have to do a full analysis of all of these so that we get a full picture of what the impact is.
Because just roughly, as I was walking through the different recommendations, it seems like it's going to have a significant impact on Section 2.
Well, I think it will too, but I don't know that. We'll figure that out.
Okay, that's
find some numbers. Okay.
I can get all the full set of demographic data to you within the next several days.
Okay.
For any of these options.
All right. Let's take 99 out just for the sake of discussion because District 5 is overpopulated.
Yeah. Put it back into 3?
Yeah, I think so, Frank.
Yeah, that's fine.
And it's still overpopulated, and I don't. The only place that makes sense to put it is District 4. What about the precinct below it? The one on the end, that one.
69. Do you want it back in District 5?
Yeah.
I mean,
back into 3. 4.
Back into 3.
3. Okay.
4.
Oh, into 4? Into 4? Oh, okay.
Back into 4, yes. Yeah, there you go. There you go, yeah.
So now we are about 2% deviation.
Yeah.
And the other thing, Mr. Chair, in this current map, it doesn't look like 151 is back in 5.
And see, I don't see any numbers. I'm sorry, Dr. Romero. I don't know which one you're talking about, but
Can you scroll out, Eric?
Yeah. The SWAR.
We'll make that change. Well, let's go ahead and do that and see what happens.
Yeah, it's going to bump the number up in 5 a little bit.
Not much.
Yeah. In regards to what Mr. Antonori was talking about in terms of bumping up the population in that area a little bit more, might be wise given the trend. I think that bodes well right there.
Yeah, I would agree with that too. I think, like I said, I was looking at the census data and the growth in the rural, the suburban rural part of the county, and yeah, it's definitely a higher percentage growth. And we see that, of course, with the differential in 4 and 1 that we're dealing with now. So,
well, looking at this
vacant land out there.
Yeah, on your comments, Frank, that the growth is going to be northwest and southeast, and I agree with that. That's where the growth areas are in the county. To your point, we should probably take something away from District 4 because it's about, it's already overpopulated in terms of ideal.
Right.
And the question is, can we trade something to District 3, which is still underpopulated, that would even that out?
Well, how about putting something in District 1, bumping up the population, because District 1 shares a lot of boundaries with District 3, and District 4 shares very little boundary with District 3 because it's got basically 2 and 1 are the big boundaries for District 4. So how about maybe taking a couple of the precincts like I don't know what's in 27 and what's
They're pretty populated because they're urban core. I mean, this is not bad the way it is. I was just trying to reflect on your comments about growth.
Yeah.
And,
no, I got you. Yeah. What I was getting at, if we're trying to beef up right now, I mean, I would say this is just me hypothetically, having a population above the mean of about 2,000 or more so somewhere around 211,000 for districts 5 and District 2 is what I was thinking, and then just overpopulate them slightly so that they can handle the growth trend over the next 10 years, and you don't have a big deviation over the next 4 election cycles. That's all I was getting at. So I don't know what where we're at right now. Because the color, I'm screwed up because I'm looking at the map that the county elections folk gave me. The colors are different. so I'm trying to tweak my brain here.
Let's do this for the sake of time and discussion. Let's label this option as 2E, the way it is. Let's do the full analysis of it so that we have all of the demographics and minority populations and everything to look at to compare. And however long that takes to get to us, we'll either do it at April 6th or we can do it sooner if the information's available.
Chair Lynn?
Yes, Dr. Lee.
Would it be all right, since we're going to be getting this data, I'd really like to see the unincorporated areas that are represented, because that's their only option is the Board of Supervisors. Whereas town of Sahuarita and Marana have obviously the town councils. So it would be beneficial when they send us the map if they could give us the population in those unincorporated areas as well. Because you can take a look there and see the District 1 has so much that is unincorporated.
Well, yeah, it's Mount Lemon.
Yeah, and District 4
that's
too.
District Mount Lemon is all in District 4. Mount Lemon is all District 4, not District 1.
Oh, you're right. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Is that possible to do for staff?
Yes, Ms. Lee, we can, or Dr. Lee, we can definitely do that.
Okay. It's just because this is so important for those individuals, because they're the only one, the Board of Supervisors is their only representation.
I'm not sure I buy the argument, but we'll do it. We'll take a look at it.
Okay.
Take a look at it. Okay.
Lynn?
Yes, Dr. Romero.
Quick question: Is precinct 209? Is that in the town of Sahuarita?
209.
What is 209?
It's down west of the little boot of Sahuarita, and you got 84, and then looks like 100 and 209.
Yeah,
Dr. Romero, no, it is not.
it's outside the corporate limits.
Okay, so in that regard, and before we leave this this map, I was wondering if we could just take a look at if we placed 209 in District 3 out of District 4, what that does to the population data.
The problem is it would be an island.
Right.
It's not butted up against 3?
No.
No.
It's
One, yeah.
got 4 all around it currently.
Yeah.
It's this precinct right here that I'm highlighting.
Yeah, that's it right there, yes.
Now, if you went down to the precinct below it and to the west, that one is outside the corporate limits and could move.
Can we try that one?
Yeah, the thing with that is, though, I have some familiarity with this area because I used to represent it. They're very close together, and they're almost like one community. And I would argue that the town of Sahuarita is probably going to be incorporating them, probably not in the not too distant future. So that's why I was trying to grab that corridor there along I-19 on both sides of the highway there, where the town is probably going to grow. So that's why and they've already been dealing with the issues with the fire department down there and everything else. So it would make life easier if that was all in one.
Is that an occurrence that's going to likely take place in the next 10 years, Mr. Antonori?
I can't say for sure, obviously, because it's up to the people in that area whether they want to be incorporated or not. But I know that there are designs on that.
Okay.
Well, let's do this for now. Let's get a full accounting of what this option looks like with all the demographics.
Okay.
And we'll take it up as soon as we have all that information. We can make other adjustments as we think are appropriate.
Okay.
So this is 2E, and saved as 2E, and we'll await a full demographic look on this one. Then let's go back to 2D, which is Dr. Lee's submission. Of recent submission, and take a look at that one.
Thank you. So if you take a look at this map, what I did was try to keep the integrity of the current districts and took what some of the two options were. And again, if you take a look, I specifically did it by race. You can do by the population deviation is less than 1. And what it does is it gives quite a bit of City of Tucson representation to District 1, which currently District 1 has very little. It also changes the minority population because I ran minority myself. What it does is increases the minority population in 1, 3, and 4. Currently, 1 and 4 are obviously the ones that are most homogeneous, so this diversifies it, and it adds more to 3 as well. But I think the question is for all of us is who we represent. Do they want to keep the boundaries as close as possible to where it is? Keeping in mind that from my point of view, they have their city councils as representation in Marana and the town of Sahuarita, whereas, if you think about it, 3 takes care of, from my point of view, 3 takes care of so much of Marana, especially the town of Marana, and 4 takes care of the majority of Sahuarita, although 3 does cover some on the west side of I-10. So anyway, this is it, and I ran the population, the minority population numbers, and when you get that, you'll see the increase in those specific areas.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Question for Dr. Lee.
Sure.
Yeah.
In this regard, Doctor, in your map, what does it do to districts 2 and 5 in terms of their demographic data?
2 and 5, I've got it here. So right now in 2, the CVAP minority population in 2 is 59.2%. It increases it to 61.7 in 2. Going to 5, right now it is currently 56.8, and the change is 59.2.
Okay. And the same thing you made reference to the idea that also increased the populations in 1, 4, and 3 as well?
Minority populations, yes.
All right, great. Yeah, I mean, I'd love to see that data. Thank you.
Yeah.
So Mr. Chair, if I could make a comment.
Sure.
I see one little issue with this map. 188, which is the precinct that the doctor moved from District 4, from District 1 into District 4 up on that northeast corner of District 1. Although it looks contiguous with Mr. Christie's current district, it would basically become an island because it's on the other side of the mountain there. So the way District 1 and District 4 are divided there's a significant geographic boundary right there to divide. So Mr. Christie would have to drive all the way around the mountain, for example, or whoever the supervisor may be from District 4 would have to drive around the mountain to get to that precinct, and it'd be quite a ways out of the way.
You know, that area, to my knowledge, is very small population, so we could change it and see what it does.
Which precinct is that, Mr. Antonori?
188.
And there's 3,900 people in that precinct.
Ooh, it's not that small.
No.
Yeah.
Oh, I guess not. So it's 188 or 184?
188. 188. Again, the mountains right there, right? So that's Push Ridge and the Catalina foothills that basically lead into Mount Lemmon and whatnot. So that district would be difficult. There's no roads there. That's what I'm saying. 27 doesn't really have a lot of population in it. So 188 would be difficult to be represented by whomever would be the supervisor. But for now, Mr. Christie, because he would have to drive around the mountain to get to that precinct.
I guess the thinking might be that, somebody has to drive all the way to Ajo.
That's
true.
That's true.
It's one thing to be an island. It's another thing to be counting mileage on the car.
Yeah, you're right. I was just thinking, though, it is somewhat isolated road-wise from Mr. Christie's current district.
I understand that. And it doesn't address the Marana issue, and may have some effect on the Sahuarita issue as well. But let's get a full printout on this one as well, so that we can share the numbers that Dr. Lee has already run for herself, and I want to take a look at those. And do you have any other questions on this one for her or for staff? Dr. Romero?
I just want to say concerned that I was looking deeper at this, and I know it's going to be a concern, the idea that D5 would be losing the Tohono Reservation and the Pascua Yaqui Reservation.
Okay.
Yeah, so I know that'd be a pretty deep concern. So I want to
D5 is slightly underpopulated, so the question is, where could we get some population?
If we could put those, if Dr. Lee would put those back in or be willing.
Well, Dr. Lee may not need to do that, but we can certainly look at it as a part of our review of the map.
Yeah, I just wanted to give respect to the idea that this is her map and
absolutely,
it's a recommendation in terms of item would come from District 5.
Now 3 is almost right on the money in this iteration. 5 is slightly overpopulated, as is.
What's the population of 151?
We'll say like 1,300 or something like that. I don't know. Was it?
That's about 1,500, 1,474.
Augie, you mentioned Tohono O'odham, but Tohono O'odham's always been in District 3. That didn't change.
Okay, so what?
You see,
it's the Pascua Yaqui.
Yes, it does. That piece changed.
Okay, all right. That's fine. Yeah, just want to make sure we're aware of that.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions, either for Dr. Lee or for staff on 4D, 3D? Gee, I'm okay. 2D. Pardon me. Too many choices.
Thank you for allowing that.
No, absolutely. I want to make sure that we haven't heard much from Mr. Hecker. I want to make sure that Mr. Hecker doesn't have anything that he wants to propose in terms of a modification of any of the maps that we have.
Mr. Chair, thank you for that opportunity. I'm taking this all in, and I will digest it between now and the next meeting once we get all the details.
Then I wonder,
Mr. Chair, I am interested in the notion of the unincorporated area compared to precincts that are within an incorporated area. So if it's possible to pull those numbers out, that would be...
Yeah, we've already got a request in to do that. We'll have that information by the next meeting.
Great.
Hopefully before the next meeting.
And if I could add, Mr. Chair, if they include that by, and I know they're going to do it, but make it so we have a total number by municipality, by incorporated municipality in the supervisory district. So, for example, in District 4, how many municipalities, for example, I know the city of Tucson, the city of Sahuarita would be in District 4. So what percentage incorporated from Tucson and what percentage incorporated from Sahuarita? That's what I was looking for, if the staff could provide that.
Okay. Any other comments or direction to staff before we press on? I mean, I'm really kind of delighted that we've zeroed in on about 3 choices with modifications.
Yeah.
Given the number that we could have started with, which was almost infinite, and depending on which variables you find most important, again, integrity of existing districts in terms of shape, incorporated versus unincorporated populations within the district, incumbents, maintaining full populations or as much as possible in terms of the corporate boundaries of cities. Whichever ones of those that you feel are important are going to inform our discussion. Now, my question to you is this. Given that we'll get all this information prior to the next meeting, and given that the next meeting is scheduled for April 6th, and it would be a 2-hour meeting, 2 questions. One, do you want to meet in person as opposed to virtually? And the question there is just a matter of whether we all actually want to be in the same room to try to finish the work. And I'm hopeful in the next meeting we can begin to take some votes, maybe not dispositive votes, but at least preliminary votes on choices that we want to pursue, and try to narrow down the choices from the 3 or so that we have, or 4, 3 actually, down to a smaller number where we can make some modest changes based on information that you'll provide, and get to a recommendation that we can, at least a majority of us can live with. So the first question is, do you want to meet in person? And the second question is, on the 6th, we're scheduled, I think, for probably another 2 hours from 4 to 6. I just worry, unless we want to go ahead and add another meeting, I'm not totally convinced that we can get through all the material in 2 hours and have a recommendation. So let me gauge your feeling about adding a meeting to our list.
My preference would be to meet in person, but I suspect that if we met in person, the meeting will go longer.
And that may be okay if we agree to do that. I certainly don't have any problem with having a longer meeting that moves the ball forward. We're all trying to get to the same place, which is a recommendation to the Board of Supervisors. Other comments about either of those questions?
The 6th is great for me to meet in person as well. I can meet in person on the 6th. That's fine by me.
Okay, as it is for me. Dr. Lee, is that good for you? I see Dr. Romero thumbs up. All right, why don't we try this? Let's meet on the 6th in person at 4 o'clock. Diana or Nicole, I don't know where we'd meet, the supervisor's room or a meeting room at in the county building somewhere.
Mr. Chair, we could, Diana and I and the technical staff are here in the Board of Supervisors hearing room, so you're welcome to join us in this room if the boardroom works for you.
Well, and it's great to have the real-time changes that Eric can produce for us as we discuss. So if that's available in the supervisor's room, that's where we ought to be. All right, my question to the committee then, is there any other discussion around maps that you want to have today? Because I don't want to cut anybody off. Dr. Romero.
Mr. Chair, before we go there, can we just go back to the meeting on the 6th, please?
Sure.
Can we just for my own processing, can we just carve out 3 hours, say we're going to meet from 4 to 7, and if we're done early, fine?
Or 3 to 6, either one, unless that bothers somebody. Either one is fine with me.
6, either one, 4 to 7. I just want to give us at least a 3-hour chunk, and that, like I said before, if we finish early, we finish early. If not, we have that time built in.
I'm consistent with everyone. Do you have a preference, 4 to 7 or 3 to 6? Does it matter?
I'm good with either.
I'd prefer 3 to 6.
Dr. Lee?
I'm good with either, but 3 to 6 is my preference.
All right, why don't we do that? Let's schedule the meeting from 3 to 6 on the 6th, and we'll meet in the supervisor's meeting room and hopefully make enough progress so that we may not need to have another meeting. We'll see. We'll just see where we are at the end. If we do, we do, and if we need another one, we'll schedule it.
Mr. Chair?
Dr. Romero?
Does 3 to 6 work for staff and also the room reservation as well?
I think I would have heard if it didn't, but let's ask.
Yes, the room is already reserved, and we can bump it to that time for the 6th.
Great, we're good. Okay, any other questions on maps before I move to the next item on the agenda?
I have
Mr. Hecker.
One question: Would it be possible to get hard copies of what we'll be looking at, the changes we made today before the meeting? That was very helpful.
Including the statistical analysis of each one. All of that will come to you before the next meeting, so you'll have a chance to review it before we get together.
Thank you.
Okay? Any other comments or questions about maps?
Mr. Chair, this is Eric. Point of clarification. So we are basically down to 2B, 2D, and 2E as the preferred options, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And you already have 2E.
That's where we are.
Okay. So we just need 2 new maps and sets of data, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
All right, Eric, you've got your marching orders. Good. Thank you, and we very much appreciate staff support. Quite frankly, I think it's remarkable that we get all this in as close to real time as we can. We appreciate you very much. Okay, anything else? If not, my understanding is that there's no one who has requested to speak at our public hearing, but this would be the time to do it. Diana, do we have anybody
no public speakers
arranged to speak?
No public speakers.
We're laboring in the dark here. You know, no one cares. It's just
We're getting input,
which is fine. We know who the audience is, and we'll get to them as soon as we have a choice. Item 6 is future agenda items. I think we've laid out the agenda for the next meeting, which, in addition to a required public hearing and a Pledge of Allegiance, the bulk of the time will be spent looking at those 3 maps and trying to come to a consensus on one of them or one of them with modifications. That would be the goal. And Mr. Hecker, I just don't want to shortchange anything you might want to add. So in the interim, if you have anything for us to look at, submit that to staff so that if there is something we should look at the same time, I think everybody else has had a pretty good chance to weigh in. Dr. Romero, I know we don't have a particular map from you, but we have a number of comments from you about the maps that we are considering, which we will take into account as we move forward. Yes. I've made my positions clear, and
yep,
absolutely clear.
I'll echo them again real quickly. As we think about the maps, the Tucson Mountain and the Saguaro National Park are important to D5, as well as maintaining representation of the Pascua Yaqui Reservation.
Yep.
Along with the demographic data in terms of Section 2 and those pieces as well.
Absolutely. Okay. Anything else for a future agenda? We'll determine on the 6th whether or not we need to meet again with any luck and some agreement. We'll be able to wrap it up on the 6th if we can. And if it goes a little bit past 6 p.m. and we're close to a decision, we'll all kind of stick it out if we can and get there. I appreciate everybody's diligence. If there's no other business to come before the committee, we are adjourned. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thanks for using WebEx. Visit our website at www